Hello, hello. Thank you for coming back to my channel. This is Jen from Jen the Bookworm. And today I'm bringing you a review of The Unloved by John Saul. I have been a John Saul reader for a long time, since I was a teen. I don't know if this translates well one for one, but I started reading Stephen King when I was younger and found him a little too daunting. In my teenage years, he was just too much, too big, too much description. And I was looking for a good author to replace Stephen King until I felt like I could go back to reading him. And I looked and found John Saul. I really liked him from the beginning. I don't know that he is necessarily as much horror as early Stephen King was, but definitely thriller, definitely creepy. And some of the twists at the end of his books are really, really quite good. So I've been following him for a while. I would say some of the newer books that I've listened to are less horror, more they're less jump scare horror. They're more psychological thriller. But I really enjoy and have enjoyed a couple of his books more recently. This one is called The Unloved, and I listened to it on Audibles. And so I wanted to point out it's narrated by Emily Sutton Smith, who did a really good job. The book, it's kind of difficult to explain the book. But it had a really, I thought, an interesting premise, but upon writing the synopsis of it, it kind of seems, I don't know, maybe not as interesting as it actually was to read it. But the synopsis of this book is that a man who'd been estranged from his family since he moved out as a young man is now forced to come back home with his family in tow because his mom is dying. And she sent for him. He hasn't been back for a really long time. The town is a teeny tiny town that's named after their family, and she lives in this huge mansion in this decaying little town. The main character's name is Kevin, and he goes there with the intent to pay respects, but he is determined not to get wrapped up in whatever his mom is plotting and planning, and he just needs to fulfill this last thing, and then he's out. Obviously, it doesn't go the way he wished it did. It doesn't go to plan. I don't know, just hearing that synopsis, it doesn't really seem like it would be a very interesting book, but it actually is very interesting. It's very atmospheric. The author does a really good job, in my opinion, of painting a picture of a town and a place and people that are very distinctive. So the pros of this book, the things I really liked about it, first of all, John Saul. I mean, I've always liked John Saul. I don't think I've ever read a book of his that I didn't like. So I'd have to say that, obviously he was a huge draw to me even picking up this book. But the writing was very good in it. Like I said, he really paints a picture. The narration was really good. And it doesn't really have a happy ending necessarily, which I think is a pro. I don't think every book needs to have a happy ending. It doesn't. They all need to have a satisfying ending, I guess, but they don't all need to be happy endings. And this one, I didn't think that the ending was syrupy, sweet, happy. So I found that to be a welcome change pace. The cons, it's not really a horror book. So if you're picking this up for horror, especially since I mentioned Stephen King and stuff, if you're picking this up for horror, I wouldn't say this book is horror. Although some of the books that he does is. I wouldn't say this one is. It was high in drama, but low in action. So if you're coming at this book hoping for something with fast pace or action, that's not this book. But there's a lot of drama in there. There's a lot of interesting characters and interesting conflicts, but it's not really an action book. As far as how I would rate this book, I gave this book 4 stars, and I gave the narration a 4. Probably could be convinced to a 5-star rating. I thought the narration was very good, and I thought that the book was, the story itself is a solid 4-star for me. So that's what I have for you on The Unloved. I highly recommend checking it out, especially if you like something atmospheric, especially if you like something a little creepy. And I want to invite you to comment in the comment section. Have you ever read any John Saul books? And is there any that you would recommend to me? I have not read all of his stuff. I've actually read quite a small amount of his stuff compared to his back catalog. It's pretty good sized. And also, what are your favorite horror authors besides Stephen King? Obviously, Stephen King is the master of his craft, and a lot of people, he's their go-to favorite horror and thriller writer. But beyond Stephen King, what are your favorites? What do you think I should be reading? If I'm really looking for something horror-based or thriller-based, what do you think I should be reading? And have you read John Saul, and do you like John Saul? And if you do like John Saul, if you have read him and you do like him, answer me this. If you like John Saul, you'll love blank. Answer in the comments below. I'd love to see what you would compare someone like John Saul to, and maybe I'll be able to pick up some new recommendations. So thank you very much for coming and spending some time with me and learning about this book, and I hope that you check it out. Please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. It really helps out the channel to do that. And if you know anybody who is interested in thrillers, horror, John Saul, anything like that, October is coming up. If you're looking to give somebody a recommendation for a good book, a good creepy book to read in October, please share my video and let people know. I really appreciate you coming back in your time, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.